Hello and welcome along to another episode of My Football Story from the Honest Football Podcast. This week Charlie interviews current Portadown manager Matthew Tipton about his brilliant career both playing and managing in the game, starting all the way back as a 16-year-old at Oldham Athletic, managed by the likes of Neil Warnock early on in his career. We talk about his instincts as a striker as he scored goals largely wherever he's been, and it's been fascinating to tap into that mindset. Following further spells with the likes of Macclesfield and Bury in England, Matthew moved and made a successful career in Northern Ireland for the likes of Linfield and Ballymena, where he scored goals, and for Portadown, where he's now currently manager as well. We talk about his leadership of a massive side in Northern Ireland who had fallen on hard times when he took over, and promotion back to the top tier where they made their return last summer. Matthew's in the middle of a busy season with Portadown, of course, and we can't thank him enough for taking time out of his schedule to join us. We really hope you enjoy the interview as much as we did. If you do, please put a thumbs up on it, subscribe down below for regular content and interviews from the podcast. There's plenty more to come and we're really enjoying them at the moment, so thank you so much for your incredible support. You can catch up with the rest of our Northern Irish football playlist in the eye above, but this is Matthew Tipton's football story, and we hope you enjoy it.
And I'm delighted to say that Matthew joins us now. Matthew, I really appreciate you taking up your time. Obviously, in the middle of a season and training and stuff during the week. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
No, you're okay. Look, it's sometimes a nice break to being on the training pitch and just to chat football. It's what I love. So yeah, it's not a problem at all.
So what we do, you've had an incredible career, and you've played under some incredible managers and some fascinating games and stuff. But what we like to do with everyone really is just go back to your first ever football memory, whether it be playing, going to a game, around the park. What would be that first sort of memory for you?
I suppose I always, loved football all my life. Probably around about the age of 6 or 7, I started, joining up with the team. Got put into the primary school team then. I was 7, so playing against 11-year-olds. First game, scored a diving header. Didn't score another header for about 25 years after it, right enough. But so 1 started, then 7, and then I started really pushing on from there. Probably then the age of 9, picked up, asked to go to Liverpool, School of Excellence, and it just, that from that stage, then it became serious as such. I know we're not the way it is now. We could still play local football. For me, obviously in Wales, in Bangor, but travelling up to Liverpool a couple of times a week as well. Just loved it from day one, to be honest.
Do you remember the first game you went to, like a ground, or your first sort of game you watched in that sense?
I would have gone and watched Bangor City play. That was my local team. They were at that stage. They were in the conference. My dad would have been a massissive Liverpool fan, and he would have gone up and down to watch Liverpool play. And then the first game that he took me to at Anfield in the Cup was against Portsmouth. They won 4-0, and it was just. Look, Liverpool were brilliant. Anyway, 1987, you can imagine then they were flying. John Barnes just signed and stuff. Well, the thing that I remember more than anything was the train journey going, my dad's mates and stuff, and that was brilliant. And obviously I appreciate it more now because when I take my boys, they were probably sneaking a couple of cans of beer, on the train. And then when we went, I just remember how busy it was. It was manic. We got on a bus from the railway station to the ground. My uncle Mark, my dad's best mate, he couldn't get on the bus. It was there, and he was kind of just waving at us. We were going, and then when we got to the Cop, I was like, "I'll be all right. He'll find us," because obviously going to Bangor City games, I don't know how many people went to Bangor City, but everybody knew where everybody stood. Yeah. And I don't think I understood, even though I knew about football, I didn't understand that there was going to be 25,000 people in the Cop. I just thought, "Oh, he'll know where we'll be, and he'll find us." And then just being overawed, you know what I mean? All these people in the Cop, it was still standing at that stage. I ended up having to go on my dad's shoulders, and I was getting passed about. And I remember Liverpool scored, and as you would do, gone back and knocked the fella's glasses off that was next to me or behind me or something. And like, my glasses. And then, so even to this day, my dad and his mates would still say, "Do you remember the time we went to Liverpool?" And that, and he said, "And that you knocked that fella's glasses off." And then, I don't remember saying it. I remember saying it because everybody, it's the story that people tell. And he said, I turned around to the fella, I said, "Don't worry, I'll tell you what's going on." I was a little boy, 7, And I don't suppose I appreciate the fella's glasses have just been trampled on by however many people. And he was probably effing and jeffing at me all the way through. But look, just so you remember from then, and then over the years would have gone different Liverpool games, I suppose, until I moved to Northern Ireland 10 years ago. But I would have went and watched Bangor City every week from the age of probably 11 or 12. I don't know. Well, my mum got into trouble for saying that. She just used to let me go by myself when I was about 11. I don't know. But yeah, I would have just gone. We would have gone, like, there was a load of us went, all lads, all mates and stuff, school and that, and we would all went and just loved it. And at that stage, I knew I was good at football, but I kind of always used to think, I'd love to play there. When I got to about 14 or 15, I joined in training with them a few times. I've signed for Oldham anyway, but I used to go training with them. And then I was like, I could get in that team, no problem. But, you don't. And I suppose when you look back over all my career, I wish I would have got the opportunity to sign for them. When they approached me to sign for them, there was no chance I was going there. I wasn't going to drop out of League One or whatever to go there. And then when the stage came, and I was, obviously I moved here, and they were in kind of different things. It wasn't right for me to go to sign for them. And that brilliant, biggest club in Wales for me. It's just unfortunate what's happened to them now. The new owners came in, and it just basically bankrupted the club, and there's now a separate club. They've got a different kind of supporter-run club, and then Bangor City, an official there, but Italian owners, Argentinians, and all kinds of people, but they're way down the leagues now. So it's just a shame because, like you say, it's my club. I would have loved to have gone back there, but it never ever happened.
No, I was just about to say, like, you could probably do a whole episode on Bangor alone, in the sense of, the ups and downs, even recently. It's such a shame because actually I know from the outside it might seem a little bit, not humorous, but it's just sort of something that happens. But it's a whole community, isn't it, that clubs like that serve, and as you mentioned, and it's such a shame when that sort of. But obviously, hopefully, they're on the way up, albeit maybe via Italy, as it sounds at the minute. But back to you, anyway, Matthew. So I know that obviously you mentioned about Oldham, but just sort of before that, you mentioned about obviously going to watch Liverpool, and eventually you did play for them. Was that always sort of something that you had in mind, was to go maybe to a bigger club? I know you mentioned about Bangor, and training with them, but at that point, did you always think you'd be going to sort of England, and maybe that's slightly bigger, if you know what I'm saying, professional sort of stage compared to someone like that?
I went to Liverpool centre-back since from the age of 9 to 12, 13, and then, went probably on trial and was offered contracts at 20 clubs, and all Premier League teams, big clubs. So, I wasn't being big-headed, but I just knew I was good enough to be a footballer. I was growing up. I never scored less than 100 goals in a season. When you're in it, you don't realise that it's such a big thing. You're playing 20 games in a season, and I'm scoring 178 goals. And so, easily now to say, like, obviously I was destined to go down that route, but I just wanted to work so hard and get there. And then, it comes 14, then it was a bigger decision. Schoolboy forms. So, kind of came to it. There was pilot clubs, Oldham really made the most running, and what they sold to us, they were promoting youth players, and probably similar to what I'm promoting now as a manager. I'm gonna push the youth through to the first team and get there, and then if you play in our first team, they rattled off 4 or 5 people that had gone through to their first team at 16, 17, 18, sold on to the bigger clubs, and they were kind of not promising, because you can't promise anything in football, but giving us that pathway, and I could see it, as opposed to maybe some of the other clubs. You're going in as one of 50, 80, 100. You see it at the bigger clubs. So, yeah, from the age of 11, I probably knew I was going down that route, because you just know, I was going up to trials and maybe scoring 5 and 6 in the game. Not being big-headed, it was just easy for me to score goals at that age. And it wasn't because I was bigger or quicker than other people. I wasn't, I was no exceptional size. And, because you see some people, at 12, they're like men. I wasn't, I probably had my best growth spurt between about the ages of 17 and 20. I didn't really push on until that age. So, I knew that I was always destined. It was just then a case of choosing the best club or the right club. I chose Oldham at kind of 14, and maybe wavered a wee bit when I was about coming up. So my birthday's in June, and then about the January prior to that, boys were getting offered contracts and stuff. I'd agreed to sign. When I was 14, I'd agreed to stay at the club till I was 18. But at that stage, I was doing really well, and other clubs seemed to be, sniffing around, and I wavered a little bit, and I said, look, I think I might like to go and see 1 or 2 other clubs now. And then Oldham, they were brilliant with me, and they just said, we can guarantee there's another contract, and I signed another 4-year deal. That took me to the age of 20, from 16 to 20. So I always knew then, right, I was leaving home, doing a 2-year YTS, and then I had a 2-year pro on top of that. So I kind of knew my life from 14 was already mapped of where I was going to be for the next few years. Then said to my mum, I'm not going to school for the next 6 months. I'd done all my coursework. I was fairly bright, and I don't think the teachers were too happy with that because I was kind of scheduled for A's, but then I just think, if I don't go and really don't, I'll get a B anyway, and B will do me. I didn't, I don't advise that if any kids are watching. I do, and I really do push this with that. Even our young players now, make sure you do as well as you can, but nah, not for me then. That's it.
You mentioned about Oldham, and obviously, going in at, I think your major debut around 17 was under someone who we as a podcast have done quite a bit on, about Neil Warnock. I know this is going back to the 90s, but he comes across, and I'm not, I don't want you to sort of necessarily give away any sort of gossip or anything, but he comes across as quite a character, quite an enigmatic person to work under. Is that actually what he's like, or is it a bit of an act for the TV and all of that, if you don't know what I'm saying?
No, he's like that. You have to appreciate then, I was 16, so he came in, I can't tell you exactly, it's maybe the February of that season, and we were struggling, and brought me straight up to the first team. I was doing okay, when football was different. And then it was A team, B team, A team, reserves, first team, and it was pretty ruthless. There was none of this underage football, I think, none of this tippy-tappy thing. It was real football all the way up. It was ruthless, and he brought me in. He just, honestly, he was just mad. But so I got offered the pro deal to sign. So I just said there, so I'd obviously agreed a 2-year YTS and then a 2-year pro, coming up to 16. So the following year now, about the March or April, he got us in, and in the second year YTSs, they get told if they're going to get a pro or not. And he got me and David Miskelly in and said, look, we're going to put you on a pro contract a year early. So he said to me, come in, I've got something for you. I want you to come and see me after, like mum goes out there, get them a cup of tea, come back in the office. I thought, probably in my naivety or arrogance or whatever you want, he was going to tell me I was in the team on Saturday. It's a Thursday, right? So he said, come here. So I goes back in his office and he said, yeah, see that there? Honestly, I didn't know what it was. Well, I did. I knew what a bucket was, right? But it was a bucket with chamois leather and a sponge. And he said to me, go and clean my car out there. So I didn't. So I just said, right, okay. Honestly, I'd never cleaned a car in my life. So I went out, just threw the water on it. And I didn't know what I was doing, just a bit of liquid. And it was like, so bucket's filled with hot water. And I just threw the chamois leather in to clean it. And I don't know if you've ever used chamois leather. This is the first time and the last. I've never used it since either, right? But the chamois leather was this big. And then I put it in the water and it honestly came out about this size because it just completely shrunk. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, what should I do here? And I couldn't drive, obviously, so I couldn't even take it to the nearest car wash to get it cleaned. And I just I just kept throwing water at it and it wasn't getting any cleaner. It was full of streaks, the heap. And he came out and he said, thank that we've given you a pro contract because you've no hope at doing anything else. I was like, Gaffer, I've never cleaning cars and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. But he was just brilliant. But I was a little bit too young to go too deep in. But I would say the following pre-season, I was straight up with the first team, went away with them to the Isle of Man pre-season tournament. He's all, Tippy, come here with me. Come here. And I didn't know if I was in trouble. You just don't know, do you? The kid, you don't know why the manager's calling you over all the time. So he said, here, take that. Give me money, 50 quid or something. Go out with the lads tonight and stuff. I was like, oh, nice. Right. And he's all, you keep an eye on them boys, look after them, you're in charge and stuff. And I was like, Lord, Stafford's giving me money, what should I do? And they said, give it here, get it in the kitchen over there. And just, some of the stuff he done, obviously I was a young kid, so it didn't affect me, but he would say, in reserve game tomorrow, cost you 50 quid if you don't want to play. And I was like, I was obviously wanted to play, you know what I mean? I was delighted to be picked for the reserve team, but the first team wouldn't be doing it. And I've heard other people say he's famous for this all the way down all the way through his career. I suppose he's always offering boys to pay the way out of a reserve game or extra training and stuff. But some weeks we play on a Saturday and he'd just say, lads, I'll be back on Thursday. Ron will look after training and his assistant manager would just take training. And methods obviously really worked for Oldham. We didn't get promoted or anything, but everywhere else he's been more than successful.
You obviously you see the TV sort of Warnock and all of that, and you just wonder whether it's the same, and how much of it is tactical, how much of it is sort of motivational. But you could, as I say, you could probably do a whole hour on Neil Warnock himself, couldn't you? Just wanted to really quickly talk to you about, making that, you said you obviously played at such a young age. Do you think that helped you in the sense of being almost so fearless? Because, I suppose, like you say, you maybe don't understand the magnitude of playing necessarily first team football. Or do you think, was there an element of nerves, particularly before the first game, for example?
Not nervous, but I look back and I was kind of hyped up from a young age. It ended up, and some of the first team players then they ended up giving me the nickname of the Saviour and stuff, and it probably didn't help, you know what I mean? Because it was just, I was built up so much, I was just going to come in and do all of this and all that. And And I didn't, at the beginning, I didn't score the goals. We weren't flying as a team or as a club or whatever. Like, it didn't suit. Neil Warnock was like, he's direct. He is direct. I'm not going to, you can't lie and say, oh, yeah, this team plays. I was a kid coming into the team, probably looking to feet and to go by people. He just wanted to run the channels. And that wasn't me. And then I had to change my game because I wanted to play. Where some young people just go, well, I'm doing what I'm doing and that's it. Because I was desperate to play. I just said, right, I'll just do what the manager wants for the best of the team. You don't really get that. Probably in my mind, I was a little bit older than I was, as a 17-year-old. I knew what was best for the team, so I did that. But it probably wasn't the best for me, maybe. Could have been a little bit more selfish, but that's the way it goes. I ended up, I was playing. New manager came in the following year and stuff, and I was playing regular, 100 odd games by the time I was 20. So I was doing something right. But probably not as prolific as a goal scorer as what was expected.
I appreciate being so honest about that. I suppose it is, there's lots of examples in football, I suppose, of people who, I don't know, it is that pressure a little bit, but maybe at that young age, it's hard to sort of understand what that is. But you obviously, you had an incredible scoring record at Oldham. There's no sort of doubt in that. But then you ended up moving to Macclesfield. Was that sort of your choice? Was there other places? Because obviously you were, as you mentioned, there was a lot of media attention surrounding you. So how did that sort of crossroads happen, really?
I was actually telling one of my players this story last week. Mick Wadsworth had come in with Ian Dowie, and they were good, and they were saying to me this, that, and the other. But I'd been in the squad from 16. Then I started not getting in the squad a couple of times, and they were going down a different route. I was good enough to play in the team, no doubt, but they signed the bit of money had come into the club with Chris Moore. They were signing different players, big money, impatient, obviously at 22, thinking why I'm not in. Ian Dowie was like proper good at fitness and stuff, right? And then one Saturday anyway, I was pulled in, not in the squad today, you just go and do this running. Now I could do the running, no bother at all, right? But see, when everybody's doing it, I didn't mind, but I felt they were just saying, oh, just me. Went in on the Monday, I want to transfer. Probably, I knew that clubs would want me.
Yeah.
Then, a couple of calls come in. So that was on the Monday afternoon after training. And by the Tuesday, it was a done deal. And I went to Macclesfield. I had a brilliant time at Macclesfield. I loved it. Scored loads of goals. But was I hasty in doing it? Of course I was. It's easy saying that now. You know what I mean? I'm 40 now and managing myself, so I know. Should have stuck it out a little bit longer, because what they were trying to say to me is probably what I would be saying to my players now at that stage. Stick with us, do this, this, and this, and then you'll be in. But nah, not at 22. I was like, nah, I'm out. I'm not doing that run again. It was too hard. So that was me away.
It's tough though, because I suppose it is a short career as well, and I don't know if that maybe plays in your sort of decisions, but you know better than obviously me or anyone else how short or long a career it can be, in that sense. I suppose that does influence moves. But while you were at Macclesfield, obviously you end up being captain, getting the playoffs, and in quite towards maybe the end, quite tough sort of situations, I suppose, particularly in that first stint at Macclesfield. I suppose I don't want to say overachieving, that's maybe the wrong word, but what made that sort of that team still click and get us and perform as well as they did, given everything that was going on, really?
Well, obviously, when I went there, they were saying to me, this is how we're going to do it, and we're going to develop from here. And then I went in the February. Didn't really, I think I scored 3 goals then by the end of that season. So it only just gone there. So it wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't rubbish either. Then the following season, I scored 14. I'd done reasonably well, I thought, because we were always near the bottom of the league. It just felt at that stage we could have kicked on, you know what I mean? But we didn't really. With the players that we had, I thought we were better than in the league position. So that was okay, or not okay, as it would turn out. And then that summer, we brought in some better players. Martin Clothers came in, John Miles came in permanently with Colin Little from Crewe. Then that was the year that I had the heart problem. Right? And I'm not playing it down. And I probably did play it down when it happened. I was like, oh yeah, I'm having a heart operation now. But now I'm going, I had a heart operation at the age of 23. Had it in about September. I was out for about 6 weeks and then hit the ground. But David Moss was playing me outside left and stuff, and I wasn't too happy. And then he got sacked. John Askey took over as caretaker manager, and I just flew. But the team wasn't flying. We were winning, but we weren't doing great. And then Brian Horton came in because we were still struggling, because we were that far adrift when I got back in the team in about November when David Moss got sacked. We needed even when we were winning, we weren't gaining any ground. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we maybe won 5 on the spin, but then we're only just outside the relegation zone, and we never really moved from there. And then Brian came in. We brought in Big John Parkin, obviously. Graham Potter came in, Paul Harsley, Dave Morley, Danny Swales. And next thing then we went, oh, right. And Brian Horton big name manager and stuff. So he knew how to get the best out of us. We stayed up that year, and then it was the following year we got to the playoffs. And I took over as captain. Tommy Withington left, and then I took the captaincy on. And we had a brilliant team. Myself and John up front. John got 27, I got 16, whatever it was. There was 40 odd goals between us. We had a brilliant partnership. They offered me a new contract, and I wanted to take it. And then I was like, look, Gaff, we've got the playoffs. Well, I'll just sign it anyway. We'll get it over. But then when we didn't win the playoffs. They said, look, we can't offer to keep you on that same money.
Right.
And I went, well, come on, like, because I've agreed to stay on that money now. You can't now turn around and say no. And he was like, well, that's it. There's no contract now then if you're not willing to take. And I was like, well, I can't take a pay cut. I've just scored 51 goals in 3 seasons. Why would I take a pay cut? Didn't fall out with him or anything. He was just, look, we want you to stay, but can you stay for less money? And I went, well, not really, because everybody else knows signed improved contract. So anyway, whatever happened, I went to Mansfield then.
I suppose what we see is like maybe just use an example, move from one club to another without understanding all of the other stuff. I definitely understand the other factors. You got family, etc., to look after and all of that, or interests. We just see the football side of it, and I think that just shows you, doesn't it, how much more comes into play when you're making a decision about where your future lies with a club.
Yeah, and it's not always about money,
No.
but you have to. I think you have to be valued for what you're at, and at that stage, I'll be honest, I was flying. I was like, well, look, I think I can get a better club anyway. Without being too good, if I'm scoring these goals, I knew the club had knocked back a few deals, because agents and different people are calling. That this club's in for big clubs, and then that summer I probably had a chance to go to one or two of the bigger clubs, and money did come into it, obviously, and they were maybe offering me less money, but different bonuses and stuff, and I was like, nah, I'm earning this now, I want that. It just goes to prove that money's not everything, so I went to Mansfield for the money and left within 4 weeks.
Yeah, no, I'm not sort of pressure on that, but just in terms of that, then I suppose you then went on to Bury. Obviously, I think the notable part was that last day of the season, being 2-1 down. Essentially, you kept the club afloat. I don't want to sort of use you as like a bit of a jinx, but it's such a shame really that Macclesfield and Bury are now obviously sort of gone out of business. So
and Bangor.
And Bangor, yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. But I'm not implying anything. But obviously, you sort of staved them off from going out of the Football League. Just on that, genuinely, what? On those last day of the season game, we'll talk a bit more about Bury in a minute, but just on that one particular game, do you know what's going on outside of the pitch, right? In terms of, other results?
Do you know what's going on? Yeah, certainly. Look, that wasn't the first time that happened to me. When I was at Macclesfield, 2 years previously, we were at Rochdale away. It was kind of, that Easter period. So there's probably 3 or 4 games left. It was getting to desperation stakes. We don't win today. We put a little run together, and we were 1 down, and it was packed. I don't know if you know Rochdale Stadium, but anyway, all down one side with Macclesfield fans, and we wouldn't have been the biggest club in the league. It's not like we were Sheffield Wednesday playing at that level. You've seen it, Sunderland are down. They've 30,000 to call upon. We probably 4,000 home fans, but I think we took 2,500 there that day, and we were 1 down. And you just know, you can sense it as much as And I ended up scoring 2 in the last 5 minutes or something. So that it's there. You know what I mean? You can call upon them experiences. And I was well out of favour at Bury. Look, Chris Casper said I needed a double hernia, I was injured. That's life, you know what I mean? And you had to be so fit to play. And I was like, yeah, but I'm so fit to play on a Saturday, but then on a Monday I'm not fit to train what you're wanting us to do, because it's mental. I need a double hernia, I can't train, and I can either play or train. So it's up to you. And he was like, well, if you don't train every day, you're not playing. I was like, oh, I'll not train then. I was in agony, but I was prepared to be in agony for Saturday. I wasn't prepared put myself through agony to train on a Monday on a dog dirt park, which is what we were training at. I was like, nah, not doing it. So I didn't. And then we got to such a stage, I was out. And then he called me back. I was like, I'm not playing for you again. A couple of clubs had come in for me, bigger clubs. Scunthorpe had came in for me. They were top of League One going to the Championship. And he was like, I can't let you go there and you're not getting a game in my team. I was like, pick me then. And it got stupid. We would argue and stuff. And I was like, why are you not picking me? And he goes, oh, you've got to do this. And I wouldn't let me go to them clubs then that are trying to bring me in. And he wouldn't let me go. And then so kind of threw the head up, just said, fuck you, basically. I'm not coming in. Because the deadline day had gone and something else. And then he needed me. He was desperate. And I always say this now, as a manager, you will always need your players before they need you. When you're getting beat, you answer to the board. You're not picking me. I'm fit now. He just wasn't picking me. And then obviously we had that day, the Darlington. I didn't do nothing else for betting. Probably didn't earn my wages that they paid me over the course of the time I was there. But that one day, it done enough, I suppose.
Yeah.
Keep them going for another 15 years.
Yeah, I appreciate being so honest about that. I suppose it then sort of leads on though in the sense of you went back to Macclesfield, but when you're in that sort of situation, say for example at a club that you're, and obviously the things you've spoken about, do you have much of a choice in the sense of, when your contract runs down and all of that, do you have a bit more leverage over that kind of stuff? And I'm not asking like obviously again personal details.
That year, Barry then came to me and said, look, you're out. Like I had another year option on my contract, and I went, they do want to take it because I did believe that I could do well for them, and then went back and I did really well in pre-season. We were away somewhere. I can't even remember. It might have been MK Dons actually. First day of the season, we trained on the Friday and we were doing shooting. We hadn't done any shooting the whole of pre-season. We done shooting that day and I tweaked my groin again. I think that's they get him out. Kind of came back, a week, 2 weeks. It wasn't like a serious injury. It was just a little tweak, and then they came back and I don't think they were happy. I wasn't happy with them, and we played Wickham away, and we were brutal. And he didn't put me on, and I just flipped the lid in the dressing room. I just said, look, is anybody going to say? And he probably didn't expect me to say it. I hadn't been playing, and I probably knew what I was doing in a way, and I was like, you haven't an effing clue. You're picking him, and him. You don't know. We don't know what you're wanting us to do. And I just went mad. And I said, look, I don't know. I know I haven't played well yet. I can accept that. And I said, but the fact is, we've got to do better as a club. You're not picking the right team or whatever. I said, that's your decisions. When don't come back at us after the end of the game when you haven't set us up in a manner to play. Yeah, funnily enough, on the Monday then, I got put on the transfer list. And back I went to Macclesfield. Brian rang me and I was like, get me out of this. I'll hope. Yeah. And that was me back to Macclesfield at that stage. But in terms of, do we have much options? It just depends. You're out of contract, you'll have your feelers out. Other clubs will know you're tapping people up. They're tapping you up or whatever. So I suppose, yes, there's always options. It just depends where you're at in your career, your life, I suppose, of how you want to manipulate that for yourself.
You mentioned about then going to Macclesfield and, originally sort of Brian Horton, but then we spoke to someone, so he's a non-league player now, but it was a man called Renee Marsh-Brown. He was at Macclesfield. He wasn't really in the first team, I don't think, with you, but he mentioned when then you were there at the same time as Paul Ince. He has a chalk and cheese reputation as a manager. Now, I'm not asking you to necessarily be divisive, but it was a very tough situation that, the club were in that you entered. I just wanted to sort of know your perception of him.
I loved him. Honestly, I did, because obviously the loan was up or whatever at Bury. And I went and said to him, I said, look, my head's gone. I need to know here what's going on. If you're sending me back there, just tell me today. Because I didn't know what he wanted to do. He's bringing in players. Well, that's fine, everybody. And I said, just tell me. I said, because see if I go back there, I'm going to knock him out and then I'll just walk away from football. So they've had enough, I said, because it's just full of people that lie to you and stuff. I said, I have no time for that. I said, just tell me. I said, look, I shouldn't be playing at this level. I'm better player than that. But things haven't worked out. I've made wrong choices over the last 2 years. Shouldn't have re-signed here when I did. Like at the end of my contract that time when I just scored the 20. The year before the playoffs, I should have moved on then to the clubs that were looking for me in the championship and stuff. So I said, so just tell me and I'll go. He's like, nah, I love you. He said, I want you to stay and play, and he was brilliant with me. Then he just said, whatever happens, we'll just take over the rest of your contract and keep you here for the rest of the season, and then we'll take it from there. Don't go back there. Kept me involved all the time. Like, still mad in that he didn't put me on against Chelsea when we were there, but I let him off. And he was a good guy. He had good methods. I liked everything he'd done. Probably to us, it was different because he's like Paul Ince, isn't he? Premier and whatever. And we'd not really seen him. I think he brought a fitness coach in and things that really, masseuses. We had a chef then full time. This stuff didn't happen at League Two. So he probably had those eaten out of his hands because of that. But as he's moved up, the things that he's doing with us is expected at Premier League and Championship level. So maybe it's not as easy to get that buy-in. Yeah, he's just a good guy and a decent enough manager. What he wanted us to do, he got his points across. He had Ray Matthias in with him, who I love, and then obviously he had his fitness coaches and stuff. So all in all, he had a good staff around him, and I liked him as a person.
Just taking aside the sort of the club football side, but obviously you played for your country as well, which is an incredible sort of achievement. How does that rank for you? Because obviously you did a lot in the game. You scored some fantastic goals and had some incredible seasons, which we'll go into a bit more later on as well. But how does that sort of compare? What you achieved sort of as a player individually and also in playing for your country?
I loved it, but I suppose, again, while you're doing it, you don't appreciate it as much as you do now. You know what I mean? I go back and I look, and, well, I am going to name drop and whether I want to do it or not. So we were talking about it, and a fella said to me the other week, and I didn't do it to be cheeky or anything. The guy said, who is the best player you ever played against? I don't know what the answer he was expecting, but when I said Andrea Pirlo, he nearly fell on the floor. Even at that stage, Andrea Pirlo was still playing for AC Milan when we played Wales against Italy on the 21s, and Gattuso was playing. And anyway, we found the team sheet. I must have saved it when I was on Twitter. I'm off all social media now, but there would have been a pile of us that were on, Robert Earnshaw, Simon Howard, Danny Gabardon, and we would have been chatting about these days, when we played against Italy and got chased around the pitch all day. And so when you look back, what I'm saying is when you look back 20 years down the line, it's an unbelievable achievement.
We'll sort of skip forward a bit. So I know that there was a sort of period where you then, around 27, you actually sort of decided to, you went to Hyde and things like that. And just on that, sort of rather than going on individual clubs, that little period out of the Football League, was that sort of your choice? And also on that, what did you find the biggest difference was between, say, Football League football and, Conference North, that sort of thing?
I'll be honest, the reasoning behind it was just what I said. When I went to Paul Ince and said, look, my head's gone here with just all different things. And I just thought, I don't need this. My wife doesn't need it. Me coming home, if I don't play, I'm in a bad mood. I just thought, I love football and I wanted to carry on loving football. And I thought a year out of going in every day would help. Might help the body settle down in terms of injuries, because groin, hernia, groin, hip, hernia, groin, you know what I mean, over and over. So I went to Hyde. I think I scored 27 that season.
Yeah, you did.
And loved it. It was just good. Look, I thought the standard of football was was good. Any of them players could have easily gone and played in any of the Macclesfield or Oldham teams I played in as individuals or whatever. And then I was like, in the summer, right, I really want to make a crack of it. Hyde then started getting money difficulty, sold me to draws. And I didn't want to go, if I'm honest.
No.
But sometimes in football, that's one of them that you don't have a choice. I was saying, no, I'm not going. They said, if you don't go, we can't afford to keep you anyway, so you may as well go there.
Yeah.
And get it. I went there, didn't really do much there. It was just.
Well, there was that goal against Darlington, wasn't there?
I forgot that. Well, I didn't forget, but they didn't really do too much for them. But I suppose I got them one of the most famous goals, in the FA Cup. And, and then when you do that, then that does start you thinking, look, actually, I'm wasting my time at this level. I want to go and play proper football. I done my B licence that year, got talking to a few, pros on it. And that's what then fueled the hunger to get back. And then I went back. Well, I actually went to Accrington in that summer. And while I was there, then I got the phone call, look, Macclesfield want to bring you back. And obviously I went back. And it was good because I'd had them 2 years out. It also taught me a lot, on the other side of the game in terms of managing people and things, because not everybody turns up every day at 10 o'clock in the morning as a pro does. Yeah. When you've got people that have jobs, and I couldn't understand it, It certainly helps now as I'm a manager, I suppose. I
know obviously the time at Macclesfield ended it quite sadly, with Keith Alexander and that, and not to want to dwell on that. But obviously off the back of that, you then went to Dundalk in Ireland. Yeah. Obviously going over the water in that sense is a different experience. Just really quickly, before we sort of talk a little bit about that, there was a game against Shamrock Rovers where you scored a hat-trick. I just wanted to know from as a striker's perspective, what is it like when everything you touch seems to sort of just be, I can't think of another word, but just everything just goes for it. Do you know that's going to happen, or is it just sort of an instinct sort of thing, really?
Yeah, what I would say, as I was getting to that stage of my career, right, I'd said at the beginning I was doing everything to please whatever manager wanted, and then I was getting to the stage. So basically, when I went to Hyde, I was like, well, I'm a centre forward that scores goals. I'm not messing about them up. Yeah. I'm not running here, then, there, ahead. So if you want to sign me to score goals, make sure, get the ball to me somewhere near the goal, and I'll put it in there. But I'm not, that's me done with this running around pleasing other people. I'm now playing football for me to enjoy what I want to do. So I'm going to get the ball somewhere near the goal and I will score. I had never lost the ability to score, but I'd obviously not been as prolific. And then I went there, done that. And then, I just got to a stage, like you say, when I got to Dundalk, like I still speak to some of the players, that I played with and now, and then they just say, so if they text or whatever, contact me, they always just say, hit me. Because that was what and I suppose that the different accent with them boys, and get the ball into me, and then I'll do the rest. Don't worry about it. And they still, they still would say, hit me, like Instagram or whatever. Hit me, Tipton and stuff. And that night, did everything go perfectly? Probably not. It was a tremendous result, and they scored a hat trick, and we won 5-1. When you were being in front of the goal, and then if the ball dropped, they'd score.
If you don't ask a slightly personal question, do you think what you do, obviously you're a natural goal scorer, and I know that it's a bit, you hear it a lot in the media and all that. From your perspective, is what you do a natural sort of talent, or do you think it could have, not saying you could coach it into everyone, but if you've got someone who's of a decent enough standard, could you coach them into being a natural goal scorer?
So it's difficult. Because what you see is sometimes, I'll put finishing sessions on and there'll be players there and they score bang, bang, bang all the time. But it's not that. Kicking the ball in the back of the goal isn't the be-all and end-all. It's the timing to get into them positions, knowing why you want to make, which runs to make, when to make them. That's what makes a better goal scorer. So I've played with some people, brilliant goal scorers. You wouldn't pick them in training to kick the ball from, well, I was going to say from me to you, because in terms of iPad, to me, isn't that far. But yeah, couldn't pass the ball 5 yards, but put them in front of the goal and they could do it. And he might come off the shin, the knee, back heel by mistake or whatever. It's a knack of just getting into that area. And can you coach it? I don't know, is the honest answer. What I try and do is I try and coach them where I think the ball's going to be. So I have certain positions on the pitch where the ball's going to be. I'm not going to say it because then everybody will know. We have zones. Anybody who's played for me will know, and if they want to make a comment on the video, then they'll know, because drilled into them. If you put yourself into these positions when the ball's there, or there, you will score, or you will certainly get an opportunity to score. What we find is these people may be brilliant finishers in training. You'll hear about it, you'll have read about it. Oh, he's a brilliant finisher in training, but he's not putting himself in that position in a game to score. So I can set up that finishing practice in training, and you'll see it, and people will talk about it. He's a wonderful finisher in training, doesn't do it in the game because he's not putting himself in the position where the ball's going to get to. So basically, just goal hand.
No, I appreciate you. Honestly, that's fascinating to hear, genuinely, and I really appreciate you. Obviously, don't want to reveal your sort of your tactics, or whatever, but I appreciate you sort of being so honest about that. Just then back to your sort of career. Jim Irwin, obviously a friend of yours who played with Ballymena. So his actual words were, "What the hell brought you to Ireland, Northern Ireland?" Obviously, considering where you played, his exact words were that you're Welsh, but that's a different sort of discussion. But in that sense, on a serious note, obviously I take his sort of sentiments. Why then did you go to Northern Ireland? Because obviously it's part-time football. Why there, and what was it that sort of attracted you up there?
Well, the stage came. I was at the end of my contract, Macclesfield, and the money had gone at that level. A couple of clubs had made tentative inquiries, and this is a real long answer to getting back to why. I went to Bradford. So Peter Taylor tried to sign me, I think, for Hull, I don't know, so then probably 4 or 5 different clubs, right. And it never worked. Whichever way, club turned it down. I didn't want to travel down south. Different, you know what I mean? The way, so that was fine. So I was actually out having a beer with Ian Holloway. A friend of mine, Matt Williams, CEO at Burnley now, but he was at Blackpool at that stage. We were actually doing a charity tour around every cricket ground in the country, or every county championship cricket ground. I love cricket. I think I like cricket more than football, actually. But anyway, we went and met Ollie in Bristol, and we were having a beer, a glass of wine or whatever, and a bit of a meal. And then he was like, "Look, Tips, what's up?" Because I'd been to Wembley in the summer to watch them in the playoffs. They'd won the playoffs. "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Why, you're going to offer me a contract? I know you've always liked me," laughing and joking. He's like, "You look after yourself." And so I told him a story about Peter Taylor. He said, "You know what the best thing to do? Ring him." So I said, "Never rang a manager." Do you know what I mean? And he said, "I'm telling you, you ring him." He said, "What's he going to say?" "No." He said, "You'll be in no worse situation." He said, "But I promise you, he won't say no." Something else that's always stuck with me now. So I rang, and Peter Taylor invited me into Bradford. Went there. Anyway, it didn't work out, whatever. Didn't want to offer me a contract at all. So, but what he did say to me is, "Listen, Ian Foster was on the pro license manager at Dundalk. He's rang me, knew you were here. Would you be interested in going?" So I said, "Yeah, they would actually. Yeah, get him to ring me." Didn't. The phone never rang, whatever. So a couple of days later, I rang Matt at Blackpool and Ollie. It's not working. And he said, "Look, you've got your B license. Do you want to come in and do a bit of coaching?" He said, "Whatever level. Reserves." He said, "You can sign for us on a non-contract form. Just play for the reserves because we're going to be playing. We don't have a big enough squad to fill it, and we're going to play Premier League reserve football." I said, "Right, okay." So we'd actually went away to a caravan park for a few days, all the family, mum and dad, brothers and sister-in-law and stuff. And we were all in. So that night, Blackpool playing Crewe. So I said, "Right." And they said, "Come and play, bring your boots." So I was about to set off home. And then Ian Foster rang and said, "Listen, do you want to come?" He'd rung, they'd offered me the deal, but it was never getting there, it was never getting over the line. If I'm going there, I want big money. So he came back and gave me the big money. So I drove, instead of turning right to go to Crewe, we turned left to Liverpool Airport, and I got on the flight to Dundalk. At that stage, I'd been ringing to Dave Muskelly all the way back now to Oldham. That's 16. Dave's from here. He lives now 10 doors along the road.
Right.
So Dave's from Cumber. He was at Portadown, and he was saying, "Listen, our manager, he wants to sign, he's desperate for a centre forward. Sign for us. So I said, get him to get the deal on the table today, and I'll do it. But otherwise, I've got this Dundalk deal." And then I told him what Dundalk had offered. And he went, "We'll sign there till January, because it was like good money. Sign there till January and come to us. And I said, right. So all of that way around, back then, Dave had been best man for me at my wedding. I'd been best man at his wedding. Godfather to my kids, and I am to his. So the Northern Ireland connection came from Dave.
Yeah.
But I had to go to Dundalk first because they were offering me the deal right there and then for 6 months. So I went. Then I went up and seen Ronnie, and I said, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll put you a couple of tickets on. You come and watch me Monday night. We play Shamrock Rovers. I was watching Portadown play Lisbon Distillery on the Saturday. And I said to him, there's 2 tickets there for you. You come and watch me playing on Monday night, and I'll ring you Tuesday, and then we'll make the decision from there. So, you know, what happened then? Scored the hat-trick. Dave for me. How did we get on? Because, like, I know what internet and stuff was about, but it wasn't like it is now. You can't get things out. Like, Twitter was only really taking off, I think, there. And Dave rang at 10:15, whatever it was. How do you get on? I said, I won 5-1. I scored a hat-trick. No chance. I said, if you ring McFall, tell him that I want a 3-year deal on my door tomorrow morning. And that was it. I drove up, rang the wife and said, listen, Beck, what do you reckon? They're going to offer me a decent deal. I said, lovely. Where Dave lives is beautiful. We know anyway because he's been over visiting. And I said, if it's time for Portadown, we can all move over. His wife and 2 boys were at home at this stage when I was playing for Dundalk. And then I said, and then why don't we all move over here and give it a blast? I said, because I can probably get another club in England, but it's 6 months, a year. And the way it was over in England then, people don't want to be signing 31-year-old fat centre forwards who don't want to run around. Where McFall definitely wanted to sign that fella. So yeah, long way around that answer, but there you go. That was how and why it happened, yeah.
That's incredible. It's such a domino of sort of events, isn't it, to get to that stage? I think it's fascinating, really. So obviously, I mean, Portadown was an incredible season as well. You got 30-odd goals, didn't you?
I went the first year, there was 16 games left. I scored 10 then, that season. And then I got myself, honestly, I was in ridiculous condition that summer. We didn't even have a family holiday. Just said, look, watch this. I said, I'm going to get I'll be stupidly fit. And then that's the next season. It was 27 in 31 games. We got runners up in the league. Got a hat-trick on the last day of the season. Personally, it couldn't have been better. It was a brilliant time for the club. And then Ronnie decided he was only offering me a 1-year deal on less money. That was never going to happen your way. No. I felt I'd sacrificed enough to come over here with my wife and family that I deserve a little bit more than that. Again, we didn't fall out, but Linfield offered me a 2-year deal. There's 12 teams in the league, and the way it works here, they have to send a letter into the club.
Right.
And I think 7 out, well, obviously we were 1, and 7 out of the other 11 sent letters in to offer me a contract and a deal. And there was no, I'll be honest, I didn't even speak to any of the others. Linfield came in, the most successful club in the country. And when they came in, I went and met them, met Big Dave and shook his hand. And I said, look, I'll be back. I said, in fact, I'm going to sign it now, but we don't do anything. Let me go and speak to Ronnie face to face and tell him my reasons behind it. And that was it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I suppose with Linfield as well, you've always got that thing of the European football, but, you know, it's a massive institution. Just wanted to sort of fast forward a little bit onto when you then left Linfield, and I suppose you then went to Ballymena. And I've got to be honest, I'm going to, you know, if you don't want me saying something slightly personal, you said to me before when we spoke about, you know, didn't see the best of you, but anytime I watched you, I always thought you were fantastic. And you got 19 goals in your first year there, so it's not the worst. Just how did that move then to Ballymena sort of happen, and that sort of time at Linfield end, really, if that makes sense?
Look, the way it went Linfield, it was a changing club. You know, Davey was coming to the end of his time. I was obviously coming to the end of my time as a player anyway. Warren Feeney came in, and I knew Warren obviously from England. I was never getting another contract at Linfield. They hadn't had value for money for me, I suppose, in there. You know, if I'm a manager, or I am a manager now, I'm looking at it and going, I've got this fella and he's on good money, but he's only played 15 games over the course of the season. You can get somebody in at half the price that'll play twice as much. You need to be stupid not to follow that model. Look, it was no surprise. I just went in, just wished Warren all the best. And I'll do. A few clubs were in for me then. And I knew Glenn Ferguson, who's manager, obviously Norman Kelly, was assistant manager with Lee Doctor, and I knew all them actually socially as well. I'd done loads of coaching with Norman, loved his sessions, and then liked them as people more than anything else. I thought, we just got to the Irish Cup final. Jim had gone there, Jim Irvin had gone there, obviously had been at Linfield with you, liked it, got on brilliantly with him, liked the way he, you know, carried himself. What they'd said to me is they want me to come in to bring a little bit more professionalism to them. Yeah, and I thought, well, I'll be honest, I thought I did. I went in and did my best for them in terms of my attitude to how training should be and the way that we play. Certainly in the first year. Second year, my knee was just not knackered, but it wasn't great, and I was struggling. But certainly in the first year, you know, not my pan, I was just disappointed I didn't get the 20 goals. But it's like a cricketer getting 99, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? It's just better, I think, from the outside, people looking in a 20 goal a season. But I enjoyed my time there. It was brilliant. I loved it. I actually really, really enjoyed it. Loved working with Glenn. Learned a hell of a lot, both good and bad, because I could see what he was trying to do, but then maybe the club or whatever, the players, or he was maybe trying to set up one way. Not everything was going the right way. That's football, and I knew I wanted to become a manager at that stage. So I was learning all the time, and he was willing, for me to learn off him. I suppose, just and talking just a general chit chat here. What happened there? Why are we doing this system? Why did we do that at training? And he was an open book, and they all were. And I thought, it was a brilliant 2 years for me.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? It's I don't want to say sleeping giant because you hear that quite a lot, but it's got the potential to be, and has been in some years, sort of in and around the cups and finished second in the league. Just on a very quick side note, though, I spoke to Alan Jenkins as well, so I actually interviewed him. His is due out in a few weeks, but he's got a question for you, which is basically, what was your favourite assist at Ballymena? So I don't know what your sort of take on
I know
that.
what. Somebody sent it to me the other week. I'll be honest, I'd forgotten all about it, and I sent it to him. And I said, that's the best assist I've ever seen. And we had a bit of I love Big Jenk, still speak regular and good football guy. Well, it could be any of the 14 that I set him up that season. I know that's where he's going. He said we had a brilliant understanding. He's a centre midfielder, and I was centre forward. Honestly, I don't know now, but certainly I remember it was definitely more than 10 assists, but there was one played Dungannon and done like a crazy back heel that bounced into the ground over it. It was something I'd seen George Weir doing, against George Weir. I'm trying to copy what George Weir is doing. Obviously, that's how scales of football have gone up and down. Yeah. George Weir done it. We played Man City. I was playing for Oldham, and mine was nowhere near as good as George Weir's, right? But it was he banged it into the ground. So it went over the defender, because the defender slid in, and he was running away from goal, and he done it. So it bounced over the defender. I always remembered it, and I used to practice it in training. I'd got to this stage, and I was like, well, I'll just do what I want, and I went into class. And I sent it to him last week on video. I'll send it to you. You can have a look at it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely. Yeah, no, I thought he said you'd enjoy that in that sense. Obviously, then, I think eventually, your career has to come to an end, as you well know. And going into management, and I've got to be honest, incredibly successful in a short period of time as a manager. The sort of first question I wanted to ask you is, you've played under some incredible managers, and we'll sort of get onto the time at Warrenpoint and Portadown briefly in a sec. But do you feel like you've taken bits from them? I know you've had some dodgy managers, but you've also had some really sort of well-known good ones. Do you see, you don't have to necessarily identify bits, but do you see bits of them in your practice now almost?
Yeah. Well, I don't, I suppose. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm doing. Our kit man, Jason Hall, said to me the other day, you're like him. You're like Warnock. So I don't know if that's good or bad or what. He said, there's a clip goes around and it's Pep Guardiola and Warnock.
Yes.
It's out there. And he said to me, that's me on a daily basis. I'm still all like, right, we're going to do this technically and being nice to them like Pep. And then, look, I can't be doing with injuries. Get out my sight. Warnock is the way he is. I don't think I'm like Neil Warnock, I'll be honest. You know what I mean? I'm at a different level than him and all the rest of it. What I try and do is I try and get the best out of the people that I've got, regardless if that's from Billy Ernston's coaching sessions. He was my youth team manager, who now I'm 40. He's the best coach I've ever had, from the age of 16 to 21 or whatever. Brought so many good players through. So you're thinking, right, we were doing that then, and then practices are still relevant now. So obviously I've took a hell of a lot from that. Certainly when I'm coaching the younger level of player, and some of the kind of shape stuff. What I do think is, as it got down to the later stage of my career, I appreciated that man management was more vital than tactical knowledge, certainly at this level. My players might think I'm an absolute idiot, and I don't have any time for them. I do think that I'm good at being, helping them. And then, you go back and I go, well, who got the best at me? How did they get the best at me? And I do think a lot of them that good people, good managers manage people. I hope I've took good bits from everybody. There's been bits that I thought would never do that, and if I am doing it, I would hope somebody comes and tells me, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Why are we even doing that? But thankfully, touch wood, at the minute, that hasn't happened, and I'm blessed to be able to be a manager and be able to work. The current group of players have got are unbelievable. It's such a good bunch of kids, good bunch of young fellas that pretty much give everything they've got. I know for a fact every week they go and they leave everything on the pitch. Some weeks not good enough. I can stand up every week if they just do what I consider, or they can consider as the maximum. I've no problem with that. I can stand up and say, look, like Saturday, we beat up Crusaders 5. After the game, I just have to admit they were better than us.
Yeah.
They're a better team than us, and that's okay. I can accept that. I don't like it, but I can accept it in a certain way. You know, what I have to make sure is the next time we play them, it doesn't happen again. By me having to be better and maybe setting up a different style of play or a different team, but certainly couldn't fault the players on Saturday for what they done.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, that was the sort of last few questions that you've sort of ticked off in that sense. Anyway, I really appreciate you sort of opening up about that and your sort of philosophy. Just on that last little bit at sort of Portadown, obviously, does it? And it's a slightly personal question. Does it annoy you when people talk about the young side? And I'll be honest, we did like a prediction show, and you know, we're in sort of where our predictions go. But I had you quite high up, but I fell into that trap of saying, you know, a young side. And obviously, you do have young players, but you're a testament in your career of, you know, if you're good enough, you know, regardless of age, you know, at 17, 18, you were playing first team football. So does it annoy you a little bit? That's always the caveat people have with Portadown, or not really?
It's not so much the young side. Look, I decide what team I pick. I don't pick somebody because they're 17 or 27. I pick the best team, right? And I don't want any apologies off anybody for saying, oh, you know, you've got a young team, and I don't expect to use it as an excuse myself, and I don't expect it as a weakness either. You know, I think what a lot of people, and I have to explain this to my team on a regular basis, Portadown are a big club, right? Yeah. So we're getting no leeway. We're coming up into the Premier League. We're not getting treated like a newly promoted team. We're treated like Portadown, that finished second Irish Cups, winning the league, Championship, playing the Champions League, Europa League. All within the last 10 years since I've been at the club, these things have happened. You know, now we've had a rough 4 or 5 years, but we're still treated like that. And look, you know, I'm not here to say, oh, I wish they would say, oh, give them a chance. I don't want a chance. I want our players to rise to the expectations that outside people are putting on them, and what I also put on them. I think that they're good enough to compete. Otherwise, I wouldn't put them in the team. Young, old, in between. Then wherever we finish will be where we deserve to finish it, in my eyes, because that's the way that I see football.
We finished off a couple of quickfire ones, so it's just like, you know, some quick answers in that sense. So this is, out of all the interviews I've done, this is probably the toughest, you know, choices of people that I've spoken about. So in this sense, first one is your favourite ground you've ever played at?
Main Road. Played against Man City there as a young kid. Main Road was unbelievable. It was bouncing full house, 40,000.
You don't have to answer this if it's a bit of a divisive question, but your favourite manager?
Ronnie McFall. I loved Ronnie. You know, he brought me to the country, and I'm still here 10 years down the line, and I'm successful for him. He got the best out of me on the pitch, so I'd be hard pushed to look beyond him, if I'm honest.
So I think you alluded to it earlier, but the best player you played against, and then the best player you played with. But, you know, you can if you want to give a different answer as well as Perlo, because you've got some incredible names you can probably throw in there.
Yeah, well, the toughest player I've played against is Wes Brown.
Right.
And that surprises people, you know, a lot. Unbelievable defender, had everything that I probably didn't. He was strong, he was quick, he was good in the air, he could read the game brilliantly, and I suppose people are surprised when I say it. And then I think, go look at his career record. You don't play 15 years at Manchester United and win everything that there is to win, you know, trebles and European Cups, Premier Leagues, year in, year out, without having something about you. Honestly, so good. You know, you could reel off tons of players. In terms of best I played with, John Shedden was coming to the end when I played with him at Oldham. David Ayres, very good. John Parkin, obviously played with, who went on to have a tremendous career, as did Ricky Lambert. But probably at the time I played with them, I couldn't say that they were better than the other two guys I played with. But, you know, if you look at Ricky going on, probably the biggest name that I played with, you know. Tons and tons. Honestly, see, footballers, there's so many good ones that you could rattle off over and over and over.
I was about to say, I mean, the career you've had, there was, you know, you could have probably done a whole episode of just the players you played with. And then the very last one is, so this series originally started with us just interviewing fans and people, you know, in and around football about their favourite game that they've ever watched. So I'm going to ask you that, but also your favourite ever game you've ever played in. So you got two.
I loved playing, you know, and I loved scoring goals. So if any of my players watching, they'll tell you that I talk about every 200 goals I scored ever. So any of the games where I scored, look, I just loved playing. My whole career was a pleasure to go through it all, and I could probably name all 199 goals I scored. I was just disappointed I didn't get the 200, but I don't know, probably 600 games or whatever, and I'll be honest, every single one of them. More so the ones that I scored in. But the best game I've ever been to, or my favourite, right, Bangor City played Newtown. I was a professional at this stage, right? And I went on the bus with all of the rest of the Bangor City fans, brother and all his mates, and a load of beers on the way down, and Bangor were losing. And they scored in extra time, in injury time to make it 1-1. Went ahead anyway and won 3-2 in extra time, and we're on the pitch and everything. I can say it now because I'm probably not going to get arrested. It's so many years down the line, but they had all people circled on the front page of the paper, and I was one of them. I had a bit longer hair, and I went back to this style. We all ran on the pitch invasion. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was Llanelli they played. It was at Newtown, but it was against Llanelli for Bangor, and I'd say that's the best day watching football or best match I've been to, certainly. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I think it's such a testament to how much you enjoy the game, and it's so great to hear that, because sometimes it feels like, particularly the Premier League, sometimes it becomes more of a job. But I love the fact it's a genuine love of the game. So, as I said, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk. It's been absolutely fascinating, and hopefully everyone's enjoyed listening to it. So, thank you so much again, Matthew.
No problems. Hopefully they do enjoy it. Yeah.